Welcome to Dare to be Seen. Join our host, Alyssa DiNapoli, aka Alyssa Vulpez, author, artist coach, and singer-songwriter, as she engages in down-to-earth, insightful, and inspiring conversations with female indie singer-songwriters, composers, and musicians. We shall discuss the lessons and personal stories of women who dare to be seen, scratching beneath the surface to explore challenging truths, forge deeper connections, and foster personal transformation. Get inspired, and if you enjoy the show, spread the word by subscribing and reviewing it. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Dare to be Seen. I'm your host, Lizabett DiNapoli, aka Lizabett Russo, and today's episode features Scotland-based, Transylvanian-born Lizabett Russo. Lizabett merges her native traditions with elements of contemporary jazz, avant-garde folk, and world music. A range of influence effortlessly spanned by her powerfully versatile voice. The BBC have championed her work, featuring on both BBC Radio 3 and Radio 6, as well as the BBC stage at Latitude Festival. She has also toured extensively around Europe, Canada, and Asia. So without further ado, let's welcome Lizabett Russo to the show.
Sisters, sister, brothers, brothers, you're made of nature, nature stands strong and tall. You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're you're so beautiful. You're so
Now, before we meet our guest for today, I would like to invite you to go to tinyurl.com/pod discount, where you will be able to get 30% off my online course, There to Be Seen, where you will discover how to magnify your presence and command the stage in 10 easy steps so you can perform at your best in front of a large audience. And now, here is our guest for today. So let's welcome to the studio today Lizabett Russo. Welcome to the Dare to Be Seen podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I can see that you are in the darkness on the other side of my screen, just lighted by a beautiful candle. It's so very romantic. So it's the right atmosphere for this bleak winter day. We're doing this interview in the depth of December, just before Christmas, although you probably will hear it much later on. So, you are calling from Edinburgh, but Elizabeth, I understand that originally you are from Transylvania. That's very exciting. I'm sure everybody asks you this question, but what brought you to Scotland?
So I came to Scotland to study at the university in Aberdeen, which is in the northeast of Scotland. And yeah, I just basically finished high school, and I was like, oh, I want to go see the world. And then I ended up in Scotland, of all the places. Well, I initially wanted to go to Japan, but mom was like, oh, that's a bit too far. And then just applied, and I got into university, and here I was in Scotland, not knowing really much about it, really, apart from just seeing Braveheart once. Uh, of course, it was nothing like that. There were no men just casually wearing kilts on the streets every day. Sometimes, but now on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, that's how I ended up in Scotland.
Right, and but now you are based here, except you're also traveling around the world. Well, you were before the pandemic, I suppose.
Yes.
I know, I know you spent some time in Tokyo, so you did end up in Japan as well. Is that right?
Yes, of course, I've always had a long-term love with Japan, and I went there 3 times just after finish the university. I just went there and played some gigs, and basically went from one side of Japan to the other because I really just wanted to see the different parts, and I don't know, just wanted to experience what really Japan is, not from a visitor's point of view, but just living with the people as well. So the first time I went, I spent like 3 months. I stayed with various peoples, played some gigs, played some interesting festivals in the woods, and just lived I suppose a Japanese life, you could say, and it was really magical. And yes, I would go there anytime, really.
So, where did your love for Japan come from? Where does this fascination emerge from?
Um, well, I think it's a bit silly, but I started discovering Japan through anime, which is kind of their own kind of animation, to say so, because it's quite specific. It's not just like all the other animations that maybe we see produced in other countries. And I don't know, I think maybe because I was like a lonely child, and I had that kind of trouble in school, and I was dealing with bullying and stuff like that. I think anime allowed me that fantasy world to escape and to feel like, oh, I'm part of something nice and fantastical and great. So I really got into that, and then I ended up reading more about Japan and wanting to learn the language, and just basically got fascinated with their history and their way of living. And I don't know, just everything resonated with me so much. And when I first got to Japan, I was like, wow, I think I've been here before. Not in this lifetime, but it really felt like Yeah, it wasn't just now in this time. It was just I don't know. I'd say it was a deeper connection anyway. It felt like that.
Yeah, I can relate. I felt that way when I went to Ireland. I was obsessed with Ireland when I was a kid, and then I went there and lived there for a bit. Yeah, so it's a strange thing that can happen. I don't have an explanation for it, but I do get it. But and now, how do you feel about living here? Is this a short term kind of arrangement, or are you planning to stay in Scotland?
So I've lived over here in Scotland in different places for around 10 years to say, in and out, I suppose, because I've been to other places. But I've always ended up kind of coming back here because that's where most of the people that I work with and everyone that I know is kind of they live over here. But it's a strange thing growing old because lately I've been feeling like kind of going back home. So with every year I feel that more strongly. So I do not know what that means. Maybe it's a call of the home, of the motherland. So I might actually, well, considering that the world is going to hell, and well, I mean, not in a well, it is a bad way, I suppose. There's no there's no going beating around the bush, but I suppose I don't know. Maybe it feels something within me tells me that home is safer. I don't know if you know. It's a different kind of I don't know, your homeland holds a magical power, I think, for anyone who was born in a particular place. And it's I suppose, meaningful to go back there and to feel that you're safe over there because you're a person of that land, no matter how where you've been before, or where you've traveled before. So I feel a bit like that towards.
So you got this strong connection with the land. And how did your love for music surface in your life in the first instance? I presume when you were in Transylvania as a young child or a teenager.
Yeah, I think I've always loved music. I think we all have this amazing response as children to music because it's joyful. Well, if the music is joyful, I suppose. And it's about movement as well, right? Because music kind of invites you to movement of all sorts. And I was listening to a lot of traditional Romanian music that was being played mainly in our house, and I really loved it because I don't know, it made me feel like I had a connection with the land, a connection with the people, and it was like a common language that everyone could understand that kind of music in Romania. So I suppose that maybe started something within me, but in Romania, nobody, especially after I was born after the communism, and nobody really encouraged you to do like music, like as a career, because most people said that well, it's a hobby, you don't make a career, it doesn't get serious because nobody makes money out of it, blah blah, this kind of stuff. So I suppose, I up to moving abroad, I just thought, well, yeah, I like music, but I can't really do anything. It's just a hobby. Basically, I was just saying in my mind whatever everyone else was saying, but I do have a bit of rebellion in me. So I was like, well, let's see for ourselves if this is really true. What everyone says. So, yeah, I suppose I just over here I found more of a freedom, I suppose, to do whatever I wanted and just experiment and play music. And I went to different places and started doing open mics, of course. I think everyone kind of starts with that. And discovered that it really helped me integrate in a country as a foreigner as well, which was brilliant because prior to that, I was feeling quite like, isolated. So it was a really nice thing to get into and discover that it's nothing like maybe I've been told back home.
So have you managed to make a career out of it, or is it kind of something that you do with your day job?
I think one thing that I'm learning right now during this period of time is that, I think all of us are doing a lot of looking inside and looking at ourselves and thinking, right, what am I, What am I doing, What am I being defined by being a musician, or am I being defined by being this, Is this me? Is this really me, or I'm just using this label because it makes me feel like I have a place in this world? And I've been thinking about a lot about it, a lot about this kind of this kind of feelings because I'm like, well, I love music and I play music and I've been doing it, you can say professionally for a few years now. And I enjoy it because it gives me an opportunity to travel the world and meet people and just have amazing experiences like maybe other people don't have it in the jobs that they do and stuff like that. So for that, it's really great. And yeah, I could call it maybe I don't know a career, but I'm not really. I think I'm not really defined by that. I can't say yeah I'm a musician which has made a career out of it. Um, because I don't know, music is kind of a living thing. It's not really a career. I don't. I've started seeing it very differently, I suppose. So it's not really a career. It's just something that I enjoy doing. And it's not really work as well. And right now, it's definitely not work because we don't really get a lot of musicians who used to just work, work, work all the time. Now we don't get any work, or we just do like things through the computer. But that's not the same, really. So it really changes everything. And I realized that we do have to be really flexible. I think all of us depend, regardless whether you're a musician or not. But it's just like we have to bend like the willow to be able to adjust to what life sometimes brings, which is unexpected.
So it sounds to me as if music comes easy and natural to you. Do you feel a strong compulsion to make music, or do you think if somebody said to you, well, you can never make music again, that would be okay?
I think if I had nobody to listen to my music, or everyone just forget about me, I wouldn't really just go crying, if you know what I mean. I think I would be like, well, I'll still sing for myself because that's how I started. I sang for myself because I felt lonely and I was going through a lot of kind of depressed moments. And I thought, okay, well, I'll write some songs. And that seemed to make me feel better. So, I always have that singing for myself when I need it, regardless of having an audience or not having an audience. So,
So
yeah,
it sounds like music is a vehicle for self healing in some ways.
mm, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And what's your creative process like? I mean, how do you get into flow, in the creative flow? Do you have a ritual you do? Do you have a practice, a discipline, or is it just whenever you feel inspired?
I think it's more like whenever I feel inspired. I don't really have any like special way of writing music. Sometimes, most of the time, it just kind of comes. I would be just playing a chord, and that kind of leads to something else, and something else until a song kind of comes. And I don't really spend. Funnily enough, I never spend loads of time. It always feels like it's coming from somewhere else. Sometimes not even from me, maybe. Which, yeah, I think this is the magic that I discovered with music. Sometimes things just come, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, the Greeks used to call it the muse. And I was wondering, when you grew up, were you surrounded by music, or was it a common occurrence in your life, or what was it like growing up?
Um, so as I previously mentioned, my mom was playing like traditional music records in the house, and that's what I recall hearing most when I was growing up. Um, I can't really say that. I mean, of course, there would always be the popular music of the. I mean, I'm a child of the '90s, so all of that music was happening too when I was growing up. But my family is not musical. I'm the only one that plays an instrument and sings and stuff like that, and takes this seriously. To put it like this, I'm definitely the only one in my family that takes it seriously. Um, yeah, so I never really. I can't say that I was in a heavily influenced as a musician by other musicians or people who are music lovers.
Hmm. But were they encouraging of you, or was it actively discouraged because you were saying, well, music is a hobby, it's not something that you can do for a job. So was it ever difficult for you to say, yes, I am a musician, or I am an artist? Do you even think of yourself as that?
I think I'm many things. You'd be surprised at how many things I do in my life. But probably that's why it would be very hard to be like, oh, I'm this only because I just love doing so many things. Of course, music is the biggest one, and I do take it very seriously. But I can't say that I was actively discouraged. But in the same time, it wasn't like I was definitely not encouraged to do anything with music or creations like that. And even now, my mom keeps on saying that you still really need to get a serious job, even after all these years of doing music and having what I suppose some people would see as successes in the music industry. So it's funny that for your own family they see all of these things like, well, it's just it's nice, but you still need a serious job kind of thing.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, in your case, you have worked with people such as Rachel Zermani. You've got your songs in a movie. I mean, that's not an easy thing to accomplish, especially at your age. You know, it's something that really is a success. But it's funny when our own parents don't realize that, and it can feel, I suppose, a bit frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, well, I was frustrated about it for many years, but now I've just learned that it's not really them that say all this thing. It's more like, they grew up in a time where the world was pretty different, I suppose, than what it is for me or what it was for me even when I was growing up. And I understand that they've been told things and they just tell me things that they heard themselves, other people tell them, including their own parents and things like that. So it's just these things that we are told by society, especially by culture where we live, specifically, or you should do this, or this is good and this is not so good, and you shouldn't do this. This has no future. So I just realized it's just thoughts that other people put in your mind, and other people put in my parents' mind, really. So they're just saying that because out of fear, really, because I suppose everyone thinks about the pension. Everyone needs a pension. Everyone needs 10,000 insurances and things like that. But I don't want to be restrained by those things and just end up, even if I do end up to grow old to have a pension in the end, I don't want to feel like, oh, yes, I wish I have done that. Because, well, I live now, really, and I am very much interested in living now rather than only living in the future. Um, yeah, so I'm a bit, I suppose my mentality is very different on this matter.
Yeah, well, I would dare say that is very wise because at the end of the day, we do only have the present moment. I mean, the present moment is the only real thing. This doesn't mean we don't make plans, but if we live only for the future, then we actually miss our lives. Our life passes us by. So I commend you on that attitude. And I want to ask you about the message, if any, that your music has. So, does your music revolve around a specific topic that you're particularly passionate about?
Mm, I don't really write a lot of love songs, that's for sure. So if people look for love songs, I'm definitely not the artist to go for. So I write more about like society, about different perspective, or seeing a particular thing in the society from different perspectives. Um, just I suppose, yeah, it's very sociological, my way of writing. Um, and it kind of reflects on how we do things, our emotions, our feelings, and our disconnection as well. I think a lot of them have this message of disconnection between us and nature, and the fact that we are trying to find out, what exactly are we and what are we capable of? Because we are capable of so much more than we are right now, but we somehow forgot. We've lost that special sense that animals have keep on having. Like, I'm always surprised, like, how a cat will just go and eat the particular type of grasses that it needs in a particular time. I mean, how does it know? There's so many grasses out there. It's amazing. It doesn't have a book. It doesn't go to university to study these things yet. It just goes and does it. It's natural. And I think we had that too. And I'm always interested in, it's like, when did we lost this ability, this magical ability to really be in such a connection that we know what's good for us without the help of searching on Google and looking in 10,000 books to find. I mean, it's so confusing nowadays. So much information everywhere. Who do you trust? Who do you trust, you know?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is knowledge and some of it is intuition. So there's two different kinds of intelligence, if you like. And was that part of what you studied at university? I realized I didn't ask you what subject you actually came to Scotland to study.
Yeah, so I studied the applied social sciences, which is psychology and sociology.
Right. That makes sense. Just looking at the kind of topics you're interested in. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually happy that you're not writing love songs because I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's just so many and no one's actually talking about this. Well, there are people who are of course talking about the sort of topics that you're talking about, but I think there's a need for it for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, a lot of people tell me if you wrote more love songs, probably you'd be more successful. I was like, nah. I'm okay.
Yeah, well, it's good that you are doing what is authentic to you. You know, you're following your own path, you're listening to your own inner guidance rather than abiding to a pressure to conform, which at the end of the day, you know, it might be successful for a little bit, but your real true fans are the ones that really love your music, your message. That's what I think anyway. So, if then, you know, so what I want to ask you next is about success, you know, because success means a lot of different things to different people. And I want to ask you what it does it mean to you.
I think Iman, well, the definition of success for me changed so many times over the years. That I think when you're young and when you start doing something, you see it as like, oh yeah, well, I want to be successful because of this and this and this, which are mostly like egotistic reasons. And then I don't know. Lately, I'm more like, well, I just want to play music to the people who really appreciate it, and that for me is a success. If it's only a handful of people, that is a success for me because I know that those people who are there, they get it and they like it and they feel a connection with it. So I would rather have, yeah, something like that rather than just, I don't know, the big stadiums or whatever is considered to be successful in the music industry. So I think, yeah, just to do a good job, really. I think when I do a gig, and I've done it well, and I know if I've done it well or not, or if I was prepared well enough or not, and then I have this personal satisfaction that I've done something properly, then that for me that is a success.
And so, in that, there is the idea of performance. And I want to ask you about performance in general. So, what I mean with this is what role does performance play in your music? You know, would it be enough to just write music or do you need to perform it for others?
I'm not gonna lie, I really like performing to people. There's a kind of magic that happens when you perform to people when they're all in the same room. Don't get me wrong. Not this whole thing that we're doing right now. No, that is not the same, because you can't really get the vibe when people are just through a computer looking at you. But when everyone is in the same room, there's a particular kind of magic that I don't know, just really fires me up and just makes me feel like alive, like in a different way though. And yeah, just but then I was thinking, is that feeding my ego though? In the same time, because I'm like, I want people to be there and looking at me and thinking, oh, this is good, this is great. So it's a bit of a controversial thing inside of me. What does it really mean for me to want to perform to people?
But you said makes you feel alive. I mean, is it about sharing that piece of music rather than saying, "Oh, look at how good I am"?
No, I think I really like sharing and stuff like that because I feel like there's something interesting happening when you're there sharing something new you made with people and stuff like that. And I think what happens is like when you see them enjoying it, that in itself comes back to you, and you enjoy it too even more, because you're like, wow, I could feel the feeling of these people enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it too now, even more than I enjoyed it before. So I think it's an exchange, in the end, really,
Yes,
performing.
yes. And what are, if any, some challenges that you've encountered in your journey so far with regards to performance?
Technological challenges. Always. I tend to use pedals and stuff like that, and sometimes I have like that kind of feedback issues, and I have to work through them, but I always end up, well, succeeding somehow one way or another. But other challenges, I don't know. I think well, right now the challenge is that you have to play through a computer, and that's just not good. That's the challenge.
Right. And I mean, all these pedals that you use, I mean, are you self taught or did someone help you learn all of these, the ins and outs of technology in that sense?
I'm self-taught. I just got a pedal from a fan that came to my gig once, and she was like, "Oh, I think you would like this." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about pedals." And so she gave me, next time she came to the gig, she gave me this pedal. I was like, interesting. So I kind of started working it out, and then I realized I really like these things. So I kept on adding a few more to the to the whole arsenal of pedals. So yeah, it's funny. It just happened that I got into them because I was gifted one, and yeah, that definitely changed my relationship with technology.
That's fantastic. You got a fan giving you a pedal. Wow, I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
I was really lucky.
Would you say that that's the most fulfilling part about being a songwriter, the performance side of it?
Yes, although I suppose there's some sort of magic in writing songs, even just sitting by itself, and then something comes and you're thinking, wow, it was this message. So I think even for me, it's a revelation sometimes to hear what's coming in the songwriting moment.
Hmm. And so that would be, in terms of being fulfillment, it's writing and it's performing. And in terms of lessons that you've learned from being a singer songwriter, what would you say were the most memorable or important lessons that you have learned from choosing this path?
I suppose there's quite a lot of them. Which one would be the most important to mention? I don't know. It's just well, life is a journey. I think that's the most important lesson I've learned. It's like, yeah, it's good to be serious and to be doing something properly. I think that's essential. But it's just maybe it's not really that essential to take everything too seriously about in life, especially when it comes to accumulating wealth and wanting certain things.
So I guess another question I want to ask you is about thinking about your journey. What advice, if any, would you give your younger artist self? In other words, what do you wish you had known when you first started?
Stop watching videos of other musicians who have like thousands and thousands of views, and you think you have to be like that, because that's not what it's all about. This whole just go on doing your thing, because it's just like, it's not, you don't need to be thinking that everyone else lives on a high horse and you have to be there too, because if you're not there, then it's all doom and gloom. So yeah. That
Very
would be the
wise.
one.
Very wise. I like that. Yeah, it's the danger of comparison. And in terms of you being a woman, what is your experience? As in, do you think women are underrepresented in the industry, or did you feel a pressure to be a certain way to get attention for your music just because you're a woman?
I never really had that thing. Maybe because I'm a bit tomboy. so, so I never really bothered about how other people really thought about me being a woman and doing what I do. Um, I have quite a big piece within me when it comes to this thing about women. I don't know, working as a woman in music. I don't. I know it's a big thing uh, would women maybe have had less opportunities in the past and everything. But I can say that I've always been maybe lucky, or I've always worked with people who are mindful of and respectful, and I've never really. On the rare occasion that maybe I had some weird comments that I was like, why are you saying that? So yeah, I did maybe had some rare occasions when I felt like someone was being a bit like cheeky towards me because I was, well, musician, woman, or whatever. And but generally speaking, I've I've stayed away from it, so I've avoided all conflict. And for some reason, because I did that, I never attracted it in a way that it made me feel like, oh, I'm totally inappropriate, or I have to do something about it.
Hmm. Okay. And in terms of other women songwriters, what has your relationship been with them? Has there ever been competition, or instead, on the other hand, a feeling of camaraderie?
I have to say, I work mostly with men, so probably I can't really say for sure what is it if I were to work with other women in music. And the singer songwriters that I know, the who they're really cool and chill, and there's never I've never felt like, oh, we're in a competition, who's the best female. No, it never felt like that. So yeah, maybe up here it feels different. Maybe in other countries it will be a totally different vibe.
Hmm. And so, with men, you've always felt treated as an equal, as being easy to be the leader of a band. What was your experience like in that department?
Well, I've always been quite strong about what I wanted. So whenever I felt like I was not being listened, or it was suggested that other people know better than me at what, I always said like, well, it's my own music. I think, I'm gonna do what I think is good, because yeah, if you want to do your own music, it's cool. You can make go with your ideas. But with my own music, I've always been really like, we're doing it like this because it is what I wanted, and I will not have it any other way unless it's a constructive criticism, and then I'm listening. I'm not like stubborn or anything like that.
You're clear on what direction you want the music to go in.
Yeah, I've always kind of made the point, and I've made sure that they understood that, I when I say I want it like that, I want it like that. Basically, it's not like this or like this or like it's just like that. So I've always been like quite strict and straightforward, just to avoid all the other things like, oh well, why did you why we ended up doing this, because I've said I want it like this. So
I know that you got some songs placed in a short movie. How did that come about?
I actually can't remember that. It was a while ago. I was still in uni actually, and I think, yeah, I think I received one day an email from the director of the short movie, and he was like, "Oh, we really like your music and stuff like that. We liked it was already like songs that I've recorded. And it's like we really like to use these two songs in the movie and stuff like that." I was like, "Oh, sounded really nice." So yeah, that just happened without much effort at all.
Right. So you put yourself out there quite a bit, doing a lot of live gigs, and these people happen to know your music already. And what about? I know that you went on tour, I think, or you played with Rachel Zermani. How did that come about?
So I supported her on some gigs, and that was mostly, I think, when I lived in Aberdeen. Yeah. So obviously, I think what happens when you're sometimes maybe on a music scene in a town like that, it's quite easy to come across opportunities to support very interesting musicians. So that's what happened with Rachel. I was still in uni, and she came. She was touring in Aberdeen as well, and I was like, I just the person who was booking the gigs said, "Oh, would you like to support Rachel Sarmani?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." So yeah, she's really fun.
So did you, when you say towns like that, do you mean like smaller towns?
Yeah, I suppose, well, Aberdeen is quite big, but the music scene is not as big as anything like, like in Edinburgh or anything like that. So I think if you do a good job in a smaller town like that, um, you get good opportunities, and you get to hear first about certain good things that come to town.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think it's time to talk about your album. I know that you released the new album November 27, so right in the middle of the pandemic. How did that happen? It was how easy it was to produce it. Tell me a bit about the story of that album.
Well, I realized that we're gonna be in the long haul with this one. So I was thinking, okay, well, what can we do while we're here in a situation like this? And I just wanted to make some music, and I kind of started recording some stuff, and and then I thought, okay, well, I think we're gonna go ahead and do an album with these things. And then I got a bit of, I get some funding from Creative Scotland, and they've been super nice to do that, because that obviously takes just makes everything so much easier. And then I recorded the album, and then I sent the parts to some of my friends in Netherlands, and so the viola player and the percussion player, they both live in Netherlands. One is Dutch and one is German. So yeah, we did this kind of long distance collaboration, which turned out quite well, more than I expected anyway.
So the song that you're going to play for us live, "Birds," is that included in the album, or is it a different from a different compilation?
It's from a different album. It's from last year's album. Um, the reason why I'm probably choosing that one, because it's easier right now. Because otherwise, all this other song on this new album, they've been more complex and quite difficult to play. Just me
Right.
in this format over here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm going the easy way, basically.
Okay. So do you want to introduce the song? You want to tell us a little bit about it, and then let's take it away?
Birds is kind of, I suppose, a reflection of our today's society, and the disconnection with many things, including nature and our own nature, or the fact that we don't really understand our own true nature. And I suppose it's a reflection that we're turning a little bit into machines, into tiny robots who just spend loads of times on computers, and yeah, don't really know the seasons, I suppose, and know what being human means anymore. So it's a bit like that.
You've never heard the sounds of the birds calling out night as they rush. Further than the deepest horizon, I wish they could take me away. I wish I could fly with them. I wish I could speak their language and find my place in this world. I want to escape, 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 escape this madness. I'm lost again, lost again. I don't know how to feel, I don't know what to think. I feel we're turning into machines. I feel we're turning into machines. What are you thinking now? What are you thinking now? What are you thinking?
If you want to hear more about Lizabett, just head on over to her website, which is LizabetRusso.com, or head on over to the show notes where you'll find also another website for her and more information. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing this dark night of the soul with our listeners. And I'm looking forward to all the music you shall be doing. I hope that you'll never give up because you've got such an angel voice and obvious talent.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
That was my guest, whom I'd like to thank once again for coming to the show. Every week, I'll be chatting to fantastic indie performers to uncover what it really takes to be a female independent singer-songwriter in this day and age, and how we can support one another to keep shining our own light onto the world through our creative endeavors. So make sure you don't miss out by subscribing to Dare to Be Seen and follow us on socials at Elisa Vulpes. I've been your host, Elisa Di Napoli, aka Elisa Vulpes. Thank you so much for listening. And please, if you like this episode, do consider supporting the podcast by leaving a review on your favorite platform.
That's all for this episode of Dare to Be Seen. Join the conversation on daretobeseencommunity.com and help us create an empowering community of independent female singer-songwriters, composers, and musicians who support one another. For show notes, resources, and information on today's episode, visit daretobeseenpodcast.com. And remember, shine your own unique light onto the world. It needs it.